Greetings and welcome. My name is Anakoa. I am a Sophia Christ Consciousness channel. Today I will be channeling a message for the collective. I am going to go through this information like how it was channeled to me, which was pretty fast. So if you need to rewind, that's no problem. I also have a cute puppy dog here. So if you hear little noises, that's what's going on with her. Okay. So the theme for today is the darker the shadow, the brighter the light. If this message resonates with you, please like and share. This will not resonate with everyone. So right now in our 3D world, we are currently going through a huge collective shift, obviously. We're facing some pretty intense political, social, and environmental crisis at unprecedented levels. The political regime of oppression, the global wars and genocide, as well as the urgent environmental crisis are pressing either subconsciously or unconsciously on all of our consciousnesses and is affecting us either directly or indirectly. Being a grounded being with compassion and awareness for fellow humans, I cannot deny or minimize these obvious circumstances in the name of spirituality. What I am about to share is not intended to minimize or neutralize the very real issues at play, but instead to allow for expanded observation for those that are able to have this observation, to be able to understand, which may in turn promote and fortify coping skills and direct action of support. A friendly reminder and side note here is that if we are truly grounded with a compassionate heart to the collective human world, we can all be processing many emotions in response to our environment, such as fear, rage, hopelessness, even apathy. So what I would suggest is that instead of attempting to clear or heal these feelings through focusing on other things or through trauma work, which eventually you might want to use, first just allow yourself to feel them. They are a natural response. They are a healthy response, and they are a sign of your emotional intelligence and maturity. Feeling emotions is the best way to clear them out of your body. Next, allow them to guide you into what would be the constructive resolution or channeled outlet for these emotions. For example, you could use these emotions for direct community outreach. You can channel them into art and music to have support for other people in the community, or you could be using them to commit yourself to remain actively educated and supportive on social and environmental matters. A huge misconception of our modern spiritual paradigm is that our emotions and feelings are obstacles rather than avenues. So I would encourage you to use the deep emotional states and their immense power to fuel constructive responses to our current global crisis rather than dissociate or self-gaslight in an attempt to stay in accordance with limited and or outdated spiritual concepts. So please remember that in a world where patriarchal ideals stealthily infiltrate almost every social structure, including modern spirituality, that listening to, honoring, and using our deep feeling states without justifying it through mindful logic is one of the most pioneering actions to support the rise of the feminine and put us back in touch with true spirituality, which is a spirituality that is wise enough to honor the feelings, the body, and the human condition as avenues to ascension rather than cumbersome obstacles. Now, that being addressed, I'm going to be moving on to the main channeled message. So what I'm receiving from Sophia Christ Consciousness is this wisdom of a broader perspective. Like I mentioned, this information is never meant to deny or minimize the severity and validity of our current worldly issues, but instead offered to aid in healing and fortitude. So what is being shown to me is the lawful approach to energy and metaphysics. As we know, in the world of matter and energy, when there is an action, it is followed by an equal and opposite reaction. Also metaphysically, where there is seemingly darkness, there is also equal amounts of light to maintain harmony and the law of duality. Everything is perfectly complemented in this universe. So if there is immense social, political, and environmental crisis, pain, and darkness, somewhere being channeled and manifested must be an equal and complementary amount of light, love, and hope that is being presented to humanity as well. I am channeling that there is an immense wave of a collective awakening that is being grounded into our world and within humanity at this time. While this is always happening in accordance with the law of evolution, this particular wave is of a significant, massive amount of people and began around 2017. It is currently spreading immensely. There is a general status quo of individuals becoming more conscious and aware, not only just to the universe, but to the world and to themselves. This must not be underestimated. With just as much ferocity of the darkness that is being shown to us today, there is equal light and expansion on a collective level. So where is this light, and why is it not as obvious as the darkness and expression? So those that have been on an enlightened path for some time obviously are going to be focusing more on the light and be able to see it. But in general, right, in the collective community, why is it not as obvious as the darkness and oppression? So this is because of our human nature to survive. We individually and collectively focus on crisis when it is present. It seems to overshadow the dimension of light that is being presented to humanity simultaneously. And of course, that we know what we focus upon becomes our reality. Our job as healers and energy workers is to focus some of our attention on the huge wave of light and information currently being downloaded into humanity and the earth. Another aspect of this is the chicken and the egg concept. So not only is the light causing a dark shadow, but the darkness of these times in turn catalyzes and breaks open the awareness of individuals otherwise asleep. And again, in turn, the higher frequencies being grounded into the collective are bringing up and exposing the shadow aspects to be purged, and so on and so forth. So in the cyclical interplay, we can begin to get closer to the paradoxical truth of the illusory concept of duality. For in unified consciousness, we understand that the dark is the light and the light is the dark, and they are neither and both simultaneously. So, in our society, if we are paying attention, we can witness the light and expansion in younger generations. While they may still behave young at times in general, among the newer generations, there is a strict intolerance for bias based on race, sexual orientation, religion, nationality, gender expression, and so on. Also, there is a very, very potent awareness of the need to protect the environment. Younger generations are also showing a deeper understanding of emotions and abusive cycles, as well as an almost immune nature to being programmed into false ideals. Once we focus our energy and perspective on the light and expansion that is undoubtedly being poured into us from the heavenly dimensions, we begin to see it everywhere we go. We alchemize in the exact moment the darkness into light simply from shifting our focus of attention. This is possible to do while maintaining the dual perspective of being grounded in our 3D circumstances and the validity of its atrocities. It is a gift and responsibility. It is the gift and responsibility of the energy worker to create and maintain an alchemical anchor in the 3D collective world, while simultaneously connecting, perceiving, and existing in higher dimensions, then bridging the higher dimension with the world plane. While this perspective may seem trite, insignificant, or impossible to those in the throes of grief and oppression, sorry, this dog is being really cute, it is also our responsibilities of those privileged with this capacity to take note. Take note of the light and beauty of how bees find flowers, the awe of the small sanctuaries of people still being polite and loving toward each other in public spaces, the joy and beauty of babies and puppies, and the ever-present power of the sun and the stars, the tenacity of our youth, the wisdom of our elderly. These are just some examples of universal, everyday offerings of how the light is being represented in our world. I'm sure there's many more specific, concrete, and impactful things that you can find personally. So that being said, I would not recommend telling those who are in the deep emotional turmoil to look at puppies and babies, okay? Instead, heal the cliche of the enlightened being using spirituality to be emotionally toxic, and instead use your heart-centered compassion to offer appropriate support. So, in every individual, there is a seed of enlightenment, either dormant or awakened or flourishing. Look around and take note of how many people and groups are becoming more conscious, loving, and aware in either big or small ways. The darkness serves its purpose as well, for everything simultaneously for everything is ultimately love at its core. If not for the distraction and stagnation of the darkness, the light and upgrade from higher dimensions could overwhelm our bodies. There is always a positive aspect to the negativity we are faced with, and vice versa. From a broader perspective, the darkness is here as proof of the light upgrade. It is here to aid. It's proof of the light upgrade. It is here to aid in the integration of light, allowing the light of downloads to slow down to speeds that humans are capable of absorbing without frying out our physical vessel. Now, imagine how much light, information, and expansion must be blasting our current human race and Earth if the shadow that is present is as equally dark to that of the light's brightness. It must be immense. So wherever we witness the pain and fear and shadow, we hold space and compassion for it as it is, then we aid in coping with it by understanding that darkness equals the same amount of light somewhere, even if it is not as obvious. If we allow ourselves permission to focus on this higher dimension of love, awareness, and truth, if we can give part of our focus to it and surrender to fill up our bodies, hearts, and minds, it is like drinking from the eternal heavenly well of Source's golden light, of which we will be fortified and nourished to continue doing the hard work required to aid in the shadow and healing the shadow aspect of humanity. That being said, it's important for everyone to maintain a compassionate and understanding heart for those, including yourself, who may be processing deep wounds of these current and past crises, who may not be able to feel or see this dimension of light, as processing deep wounds of the shadow can be all-consuming. Instead of offering the perspective that is channeled here, be grateful for the service these people, and sometimes yourself, are doing in this world. By taking on such a deep collective wound, they personalize it and process it through the emotional faculties of their bodies, thus healing it within themselves and the collective. They are the living example of energy workers, and everyone serves a divine purpose. Instead, offer compassion and, if possible, support that would actually be of service. Okay, so as humanity gains higher levels of awareness and the earth and her inhabitants continue to ascend in consciousness, it will be made evident by facing more and more seemingly apocalyptic circumstances. By remaining focused on the truth of what the collective experience is, while maintaining a grounded awareness of our collective reality, we as energy workers can continue to train our awareness and physical bodies to hold the higher frequencies of the new earth being birthed through the current labor pains of our world. To be able to evolve our souls to this great capacity, to hold the frequency of heaven simultaneously as being present with such tumultuous times, and also to be the grateful recipient of the heavenly energies pouring into us from our source, is a part of why we chose to be here. Also, to hold hands with others during this time, and to be the living embodiment of heaven on earth. For it is only such dark times that would create the circumstances for such an impossible miracle. So I will leave you with a poem that exemplifies my point of the message of my channel, not only the core understanding, but also exists an example of what is capable through channeled feelings. So this poem is called In the Meantime by Thomas Hirons. Meanwhile, flowers still bloom, the moon rises, and the sun. Babies smile, and somewhere, against all odds, two people are falling in love. Strangers share cigarettes and jokes. Light plays on the surface of water. Grace occurs on unlikely streets, and we hold each other fast against entropy, the fires, and the flood. Life leans toward living, and while death claims all things in the end, there were such precious times between, in which everything was radiant, and we loved again this world. Thank you, and Godspeed. Bless you all.